Would you pray with me, please? Oh God, I thank you for another opportunity to stand in your house, in your pulpit, and proclaim your word. And that's my prayer. They're not mine, they're yours. May your Holy Spirit fall upon us. Open our hearts, our minds, our very souls to your word, and allow them to transform our lives. And I pray it all in the name of Jesus, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. They say that confession is good for the soul. Are they right? So, if that's true, then I guess I need to make one to you this morning. I know you'll find this hard to believe, but I want to confess to you that I have an ego. Yes, it's true, and now it's out there. But I'm not apologizing for it, just stating it as a fact. Matter of fact, I don't think you're raised to the level of chief of police if you don't have an ego. I would say, though, that if we are all truthful, you will all admit that you have an ego. Each and every one of you. Is a word that Sigmund Freud made very popular. We all have an ego. Ego is a Latin word that means I. Your ego refers to your self-esteem, your self-worth. Some people will even translate it as pride. You all have an ego. Some of them are in need of help. Some of them are very low and you need to have it jacked up a little bit. Some of them are a little overboard and you need to be knocked off at the knees. That's the trouble with egos. Ego is a good thing. The key is to keep it in shape, in check. We all need an ego. But we don't want that ego to become overinflated and go all the way to arrogance. We need to keep it on the side of humility. Let me give you an example of this. I did it. I freely admit to that ego. I need it. It gets me through. It helped me climb the ranks. And when I was a police chief, I was very confident in my abilities. I planned. I carried out those plans. I had a vision for the police department. I was able to lead the guys in the times of crisis or whatever else was going on. But I also had some humility with it. I was smart enough to know that, you know what? I might not know it all. There might be another side to a problem that I didn't even see. So I had cultivated a friendship with another law enforcement leader who I trusted dearly. He was at the first service and I called him out. His initials were Ronnie Shawer. And I told him I trusted him because he was much older than me. But no, we both would call one another when we didn't feel like maybe we knew it all. We would call the other one to say, okay, am I thinking right? Is there something here I'm missing? That's a humility part. That's admitting that maybe you don't know it all. That maybe you need some assistance. One place I always try to keep it in check is when I am relating to God. Whether I'm praying, reading, meditating, teaching, preaching, or otherwise representing God, I and everyone needs to remember He is God if we're not. There are numerous passages in the Bible about the way God feels about arrogance, and that none of them bode well for humanity. God does not take kindly to human arrogance. He shoots it down quickly. Yet I am constantly seeing this in action. Now here's where I'm going to step on your toes. So if you want to put them up on the pew or whatever you do to save yourselves on Sunday morning, now's the time to do it. Because now I'm going to call us all out, and I'm stepping on my own toes, folks. Because I do see this arrogance thing in action. I've constantly seen it where people put everything and everyone above God. God is not a priority anymore, but more of an afterthought. Remember I told you about the pickle jar Jesus, where we can keep him in the pantry till we need him? I get around to God when my own thoughts and desires are satisfied. Where are you teenagers going? You need to hear this. Okay. I'll stop and worship the Creator of the universe when I get my own stuff done. Can't go to do it today because there's that large shopping sale and I can't miss it. You know what? That Target or Walmart might change it, close it if you don't get there and give them your money. I need to go to the lake and do some fishing this weekend. God can wait. Oh, that party last night. Went into the wee hours, and I have such a hangover that if I go to church, the organ's going to drive that thing in the next month. Seeing yourself in any of this? Tithe? Why would I tithe? He's God. Let him print his own money. And those 10 rules were only suggestions, right? They weren't commandments. And that sermon that Jesus gave on the side of a mountain, did he really expect us to follow it? Who in their right mind would love their enemy and turn the other cheek? He was a good speaker. It was a good sermon, man. He put it together well, but it made no sense. I'm not following that. I think I'm capable of deciding for myself how I live. Besides, this is the 4th of July weekend. That's why you see some empty pews. We all know it happens. The 4th of July weekend, and I'm an American. You can't tell me anything. There have been bloodshed since the beginning of my country to prove that I can do whatever I want when I want to do it, and I'm all that and a cup of coffee too. I'm an American. I will sing the patriotic song. I'll wave the stars and stripes, and therefore you have no right to tell me what to do. And if you do have the right, it's because you're in government, and you can tell me how to live. I'm not listening to some old guy that wrote a book that's outdated. How's your toes? You see yourself anywhere in there? Almost forgot one. How about cell phones? I'm not turning my cell phone off in churches or funerals. I'm more important than God. He can wait for my call. Huh. I should have cranked up an air conditioner somewhere. It gets hot in here. I'm the captain of my own ship. I'll tell God what I need and when I need it. Oh yeah, sucking up to the kids. Now he breaks out the goodies. Goldfish are more important than God. Get back there, people.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You get the message? You see where I'm going with this? Do you feel that you are anywhere in any of those pictures? Because I could go on and on, but I won't. The fact of it is we do not make God a priority anymore, do we? God's more of an afterthought. He really is. There's a story in the Old Testament that helps me see that issue about arrogance and humility claiming that I will share with you this morning. The king of Aram. Hello? Every time I go like this. The king of Aram had great admiration for Naaman, the commander of his army. Because through him the Lord had given Aram great victories. But through Naaman was a mighty, or though Naaman was a mighty warrior, he suffered from leprosy. At this time, Aramean raiders had invaded the land of Israel, and among their captives was a young girl who had been given to Naaman's wife as a maid. One day the girl said to her mistress, "I wish my master would go to see the prophet in Samaria. He would heal him of his leprosy." So Naaman told the king what the young girl from Israel had said. "Go and visit the prophet," the king of Aram told him. "I will send a letter of introduction for you to take to the king of Israel." So Naaman started out carrying as gifts 750 pounds of silver, 150 pounds of gold, and 10 sets of clothing. The letter to the king of Israel said, "With this letter I present my servant Naaman. I want you to heal him of his leprosy." When the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his clothes in dismay and said, "This man sends me a leper to heal. Am I God that I can give life and take it away? I can see that he's just trying to pick a fight with me." But when Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes in dismay, he sent this message to him: "Why are you so upset? Send Naaman to me, and he will learn that there is a true prophet here in Israel." So Naaman went with his horses and chariots and waited at the door of Elisha's house. But Elisha sent a messenger out to him with this message: "Go and wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan River. Then your skin will be restored and you will be healed of your leprosy." But Naaman became angry and stalked away. "I thought he would certainly come out to meet me," he said. "I expected him to wave his hand over the leprosy and call on the name of the Lord his God and heal me. Aren't the rivers, Damascus, the Abana, and the Pharpar, better than any of the rivers of Israel? Why shouldn't I wash in them and be healed?" So Naaman turned and went away in a rage. Folks, Naaman threw a fit. You pick that up? But his officers tried to reason with him and said, "Sir, if the prophet had told you to do something very difficult, wouldn't you have done it? So you should certainly obey him when he says simply, 'Go and wash and be cured.'" So Naaman went down to the Jordan River and dipped himself 7 times as the man of God had instructed him. And his skin became as healthy as the skin of a young child. And he was healed. Okay. Naaman is the commander of the armies of Syria, right next door to Israel. He's an important man. Did you pick that up? If you're the commander of the king's armies, you're pretty high up the ladder. He had gone on. He had won many victories and got a bunch of land and wealth for his boss, the king. But he had a problem. He had leprosy. You know how we think in this day and age of cancer? That's how they thought of leprosy in that day and age. Remember the stories of Jesus? The lepers were supposed to cross to the other side of the street and yell out, "Unclean, unclean," because it was so contagious. He's got a wife. Guess what? He would not have been able to be around his wife. If they had children, he would not have been able to sit them on his lap and cuddle with them like you and I, because it's contagious. You literally rot. That's what happens with leprosy. It destroys the nerve endings, and you cut yourself and all kinds of things. You don't even know it, and your skin and your muscles and everything else just rot. That's leprosy. I'm guessing when you're out fighting the enemy, you don't really care if you touch them or give it to them. You want to kill them. But it's a pain in his side. And have you ever been sick? Gets old after a while. Then we were talking in the Sunday school room. My secretaries right now probably would agree with me, and the pastor backs it up. Sometimes, because of my back and the pain, I don't want to be around people. It hurts. And I get just a little ugly. So I go upstairs and shut the door. Can you imagine if you had something like this? How you would get? And during one of his great raids into Israel, the territory right next to him, he had brought back a young girl and gave her to his wife as her maid, slave, servant, whatever name you want to call it. And I'm just guessing because of him getting grouchy and stuff, she might have finally got fed up and said, would you tell your husband that there's a guy over there next door that if he goes and sees him and heal him and make him better, and then maybe he'll be just a little bit nicer to all of us. I can almost see that conversation read between the lines, can't you? So he went to his boss, the king, and said, hey, here's what I've heard. I want to try anything to get rid of this. The king says, okay, here's the letter. Take off. And he took off, and we read that he took a bunch of gold and silver, and evidently clothing was better than what they had in Israel because he took 10 sets of that. But it also tells you he went with chariots. And you can imagine that he did not transverse the land into the foreign land without a small army with him. So imagine this. He pulls up in front of the palace with all that and gets out and tells the king, says, here, my king says, heal me. Well, the king of Israel went into a panic attack. I can't heal. I'm not God. I have no power of life and death. He's just here to pick a fight. And by that time, Elisha sends a message to the king, says, will you quit worrying and just send him over? So he did. Now imagine this. You've got Naaman who does think at this point that he's all that and a cup of coffee too. Pulls up in front of the house of Elisha with all of his entourage and his chariots and all of his gifts. And can you imagine just sitting there waiting for Elisha to come out? If you're all that and you're important, it'd probably be what you would expect to happen, wouldn't it? Elisha didn't go out. Elisha sent a messenger out. He said, yeah, my master said, go down to Jordan and take a swim. And it says he flew into a rage. You know, because he was expecting to be honored. He was expecting to be respected. He was expecting for Elisha to come out and, read a liturgy or do an incantation and wave his hands in the air and call on the name of God to heal him. Elisha sent a peon. Said, go wash. And he starts to leave. I can feel Naaman it, because that's probably the reaction I'd have. The only difference between Naaman and me is I would have been sensible enough to turn around and go back when my other people talked to me. I would have just kept going. I'd have suffered with leprosy till it killed me just in spite. I know me. That's that ego thing that I confess to you. I know it's not. My son even told me, Dad, you're hurting yourself. Yeah, but I feel good. I told you I was stepping on my own toes today, too. But Elisha turned to her wife. Naaman finally came to his senses, listened to his servants. And, they said, if they told you to stand on your head, pat your belly, and put circles on your nose or whatever, if it was hard, you'd have done it. What do you got to lose? And he went down and washed 7 times, and it says he was healed. As soon as he got rid of his arrogance and humbled himself, he was healed. Imagine that. And it changed his life. If you read the rest of that story, you'll find out that he tried to give all those gifts to Elisha, and Elisha said, I'm not taking them. But Naaman and his people scooped up a bunch of dirt and took back to his land because he thought, I'm going to worship that God, and I can only do it on his soil. It changed his life. As soon as he got rid of the arrogance, as soon as he humbled himself in the sight of God's man, he was healed. So the question for you today is pretty easy. Are you arrogant or are you humble? When it comes to your relationship to God, the creator of the universe, the savior of humankind, the sustainer of life, the great physician, the good shepherd, are you humbled in his presence? Do you remember what he's already done for you in this sacrifice for your sins? Do you remember that he's all-knowing, all-present, all-powerful? When you approach him, Do you put yourself on the same level as God? Because that's what I see happens a lot. You want to treat him as your best buddy. Well, guess what? He's God. He's above your best buddy. He wants to love you. He wants to care for you. But he also expects you to show a little reverence. What was it? I was reading a book this week. Records. I don't know why it does it. And I'm going to have to work backwards to keep turning my. Okay. I was reading a book and it referred to the churches he called clap-happy clubs. I don't mind a little newer music, but I think sometimes you can get into entertainment instead of worship. I really do. I know you find that hard coming out of my mouth, don't you? But I see that. When we approach God, it's supposed to be with knowing that He's God. It's supposed to be knowing that He is to be revered and honored and worshipped. It's to approach Him and know that, you know what? He's above you. You are not on the same level as God. You worship Him with the same humility and you become submissive in His presence so He can work with you and through you. Is God the number one priority in your life? If He isn't, then you still have arrogance that you need to deal with. Let me help you frame this the way it should be. No matter how big you think you are, God's bigger. You may be a God in your mind, but guess what? Your name's spelled with a small g. God's is spelled with a capital G. And then one I really liked. And I even came up with this on my own. You might be I. God's the great I am. He will always be bigger than you. He will always demand your priority. And He will always want you to worship and honor and exalt and adore Him above anything else. Jesus said in Matthew 23, verse 12, but those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. So I would just tell you this. Get over yourself and be with God. Amen.